All right, guys, and welcome to this live stream. And basically, what I will do is that I will take a quick presentation about scalp inflammation and about different skin problems. And afterwards, I will answer questions that you've been asking under my videos over the last 2 weeks. And afterwards, I will basically check up the chat box and see what kind of questions you have been adding there as well. So yeah, just to get started with the question or presentations first. It will be not that long today, because I didn't have time to prepare it, but I think it will be very important to talk about it. All right. So what I want to basically start with is scalp inflammation and different stages of it and what happens. And basically, I will use my pictures as example when I was having it. And here is a picture of me a few years ago, basically back in 2008. When I was having scalp inflammation. At that time, I didn't know what was scalp inflammation, and I kind of tried to address it with ketoconazole shampoo. It kind of helped, but you can see basically at that time my hair was very frizzy, right? It was like a flat, it was lying down, and it was very hard to style them. First of all, they were very thin as well, right? But it was also very hard to style them because they were not possible to manage them because they were kind of in the state of stress, right? So in the hair are in the state of stress. When there is scalp inflammation on the scalp itself, then this is what happens, right? It was very hard to manage them. And this was basically my situation at that time. And the way I tried to address it at that time was basically with ketoconazole shampoo. And ketoconazole shampoo was kind of working, right? Because it kind of addressed this kind of problem. But of course, if you address it with ketoconazole shampoo or those kind of treatments like steroids, what happens is that you need to keep using them all the time, right? You cannot stop with using them. But basically, this was my situation back then. And again, one more picture about from that time. You can see that the hair, it just was, they were not looking healthy, right? The hair that are inflamed, they don't look healthy. Right? This is a typical sign. And you don't need to have a itchiness, right? You don't need to have itchiness on the scalp, but you just feel that the hair doesn't lay the way they should be lying. They are not manageable. They are not looking healthy, right? They look thin, they look stressed out, right? And this is like a typical sign of inflammation, right? You don't need to have a redness, itchiness, and build-ups or clogged pores or inflamed hair follicles or those kind of things, right? Basically, you can just know when the hair itself, structure of the hair are not healthy, you know that there is something wrong on the scalp because the hair should not be looking like this, even if you are losing hair because of, let's say, because of DHT or other issues, right? But or even like when I was losing my hair because of nutrition deficiencies, they also did not look like this, right? Basically, they look differently, right? When the hair itself are inflamed, when the scalp itself are kind of stressed out, and this what happens to the hair as well. And here is one more picture with me. Like at that time, I was having itchy scalp, very itchy scalp, and this is what happened with my hair as well. This is how they looked like. In this picture here, I didn't have itchiness on the scalp. The hair was just basically inflamed, but there was minimal itchiness. But here I had a lot of itchiness. I was scratching all the time, basically. And this is how my hair at that time were looking as well. Right? But at least you can see that I was able to manage my sides, right? I was able to recover from the op at this stage. So. And here is my hair when I was having redness on my scalp, right? Basically, what happened is that I got sunburn, and it just flamed up my inflammation. It was not just itchy, but it was also sore. It was painful. It was painful to touch it. And here were basically, after this picture, the hair just kind of started to shed out rapidly, right, for a couple of weeks before I was able to manage it and get control of it. And at that time, I was trying to address this problem with aloe vera. Gel, applying aloe vera gel on the scalp, and aloe vera gel can be helpful, but it is kind of very light treatment, right? And like in my case, at this stage, my problem was basically sunburn on inflamed scalp, and it basically made inflammation 10 times worse, right? And it kind of helped to calm it down with aloe vera gel, but it was not like it didn't solve it completely, right? And here again, picture of me when I was having scalp problems back in 2012, I think it was, yeah, 2012, October or something. And again, it was like, you can see all those gaps, all the thinning areas, right? It's very, very hard to style my hair. They didn't lie as they should. So. And this is a picture of me, basically, that I was able finally to solve my scalp inflammation. I think it was somewhere in 2013. And what happened basically is that my inflammation was under control, and you can also see that structure of the hair improved, right? There was, of course, thin areas, like my temples were very thin, right? And my hairline was thin out as well, but the hair itself, structure of the hair itself was much better than compared when they were in the state of stress, state of the inflammation, right? And this is basically it was like couple few months before I started with growth stimulation. This picture here, so. But you can see most important is basically structure of hair itself. It has improved. Right. All right. Here is again, like it's been disorganized, but like just to show you a few more pictures of me when I was having inflammation in scalp. Again, you can see, guys, that there was this time basically my problem was overproduction of sebum, oiliness in my scalp. That was causing problem because I was traveling warmer places, and my scalp was not used to warm temperatures, and it basically led to inflammation of the scalp. And again, what happened is basically when I was losing my hair, there was a lot of yellowish things on the plugs and ends. I tried to address it with hydrocortisone. It kind of helped with hydrocortisone, but again, the problem with steroids is that they are kind of short-term. They have short-term effect, right? So if one keeps using them, one needs to always get more potent ones, right? And there is like a never-ending cycle of using them. But anyway, I was trying to address this problem with hydrocortisone, and it kind of worked, but it was like as long as I was using it, it worked, and then I stopped using it, and my inflammation came back, right? But this time I had a very early scalp, I remember, a lot of sebum. Here that fall out, had a sebum on the ends of them, like a yellowish sebum. So this was my situation back then. So on one more picture, again, a bit redness, a bit of soreness on the scalp. It was about the same time as the previous picture, like a couple of months later, but there was again a lot of issues going on. So, and here I want to show a picture. Like this is not a picture of me, but this is a picture of one of the guys in the program. So he did take a close-up picture of how his scalp was looking because he was having scalp inflammation on itchiness. And basically, I want to show you basically how stressed hair follicles look like. Right? You can see that there is like a bulbs around hair follicles. They are in state of stress, right? And this is basically when this happens, it's basically the scalp is so inflamed that you can see that hair itself is very stressed out, and they very easily will fall out as well. There don't need to be a lot of like a lot of movement, like just by touching the hair, they fall out easily. Right? And basically, in this case, it's a problem. Right? And basically, to solve this kind of problem, one needs to address it from all the possible angles, right? So you need to address it from scalp topically. Possibly you need to use steroid creams like I did, but also you need to use the right shampoos. You need to detox your system. You need to cleanse your body. You need to address your gut health. You need to make sure that you have a lot of nutrition, and you don't take anything that can increase immune system responses and cause even more inflammation, right? So this is a tricky trickiest thing to solve, right? Because you need to address from so different angles if one is having this kind of problem. But it is possible, right? It takes a couple of months to actually solve this problem, but it is possible, right? And when one has solved this problem, then one can basically start with growth stimulation and all the fun things to get back here, right? But this problem needs to be addressed. All right, that was all I wanted to take regarding presentation. I will check up or I will take our questions that you guys have been asking on YouTube channel first, last 2 weeks, and afterwards, basically what I will do is that I will check the chat box. All right, so first question is about, hey, Alex, I have oily skin and sometimes scalp too. I'm not washing for 3 days and my scalp gets red and itchy. What I'm supposed to do, right? Like, again, you can, it basically depends on what is main cause of your oiliness in the scalp, like on the context. Are you taking finasteride? Like I remember when I started to take finasteride, my oiliness, my scalp and sebum production also reduced, right? Because I started to block DHT. So maybe if your oiliness is caused by too high DHT levels, it could be helpful, right? Maybe you need just to try out ketoconazole shampoo, like a good one, like Revita or Region, for example. It could be helpful, but it depends on context, right? You need to find out root cause here and find out right context, because if you start to address your scalp condition from the wrong context, it's very easy that they get out of control and make things worse. All right. Next one is about hey Alex, I have a question. If you use aloe vera shampoo, is it enough for better cleaning the scalp, or I need to use shampoo that contains sulfate? Yes, aloe vera shampoo. It depends basically what else is going on in your scalp, right? Aloe vera shampoo itself, it can be enough, yes. But sometimes, like I told in the previous videos that I made last week, is that the sulfates has a function, right? Sulfates, they, as ingredients, they help to have a deep cleaning effect on your scalp. For example, if your scalp has a tendency of getting a lot of sebum production or clogged pores or buildups, then you won't be able to remove with just natural aloe vera shampoo, right? So you can use it can work well if the scalp conditions are okay, if they're in the normal state, but if there is some problems, then sometimes it is important to have sulfate from time to time in your treatment as well. But of course, there are different types of sulfate as well, so you need to find a right one that is okay for your scalp, that doesn't cause or damage your scalp environment. Next question is about, hey Alex, did you get dermatologist help to solve your hair loss? Like I did get some guidance from dermatologists, but the guidance from dermatologists was basically about steroid creams, steroid lotions, steroid shampoos. So those things are okay, right? But they don't solve underlying problem, right? So they just they address this issue from addressing symptoms, right? So basically what happens when you apply steroids, they repress immune system and they help to kind of calm things down, right? When you stop with them, then it basically inflammation will fire up again, and it will be never-ending cycle. One needs to kind of cycle between stronger and weaker steroids, like 4 different levels of steroid creams, steroid lotions, and one needs to cycle between them. And like for short term is okay, right? Because you can buy time and find a solution to the problem. But for long term, you don't want to get kind of addicted to steroids, steroid creams, steroid lotions, because it's not solution. And there is a point where those steroids basically won't be enough. They won't be effective enough to address the actual problem. Like, for example, I remember when I first started with steroids, first time I used them, it was awesome. They were working very well, but then I needed to stop. And then I tried it like second time and they were okay, but third time they become less effective, right? So I knew that I need to find a better solution to this problem, to this scalp inflammation, right? And like I said, scalp inflammation to solve it, you need to address it from all the angles. That includes basically your scalp environment. You need to find out what is the root cause behind it. You need to address your system, do detoxification, address gut health, and so on. Right? All right. Next question is about, it's basically about derma rolling. How many times a week I do it? Like I do it daily, basically. When I was growing back my hair, I was doing it daily. What do you think about head and shoulders? It depends on each individual, right? It depends on your scalp environment, what is happening, your scalp conditions. If you have inflammation, if you don't have inflammation, right? Head and shoulders, I don't use it, I don't like it, but again, it depends on scalp environment, depends on your individual problems, right? So what you kind of want to achieve using it. So. The question about, do you think everyone is able to regrow hair like you did? Yes, of course, but you need to find out what is actually root cause behind your hair loss, right? You need to find out what is the root cause behind your hair loss, and you need to solve it with the right treatment, and then you basically can re-stimulate hair regrowth, right? But you need to find out what is actually a reason why you're actually losing hair. And this is why I have been so successful, because I always, when I had a new problem appear, I was able to solve it. Right? I was able to overcome all the challenges, and I kind of find it exciting to get new challenges, right? Because I find it challenging to solve them, right? And of course, it's when first time I tried to solve them, it took for me a very long time, right? But as time went by, I understood. I was able to connect the dots. I did see what was the problems, what was working better than other things, and over time I was able to kind of build up the treatment for it. So. What happens if you stop with minoxidil? Depends on context, right? If you stop with it right away, and then most likely there will be shedding, right? Because here I kind of depend on it. If you top it down over time, then here most likely will stay, right? But again, it depends on how well you are addressing your underlying conditions and those kind of things, right? I'm suffering from scalp inflammation. I'm not there using minoxidil. It seems like minoxidil works in scalp conditions. Any suggestions about it? Yes, like you need to solve scalp inflammation first, right? You need to find out what is actually happening in your scalp and solve it, and then you can start to use minoxidil. Like for example, in my case, I remember when I was having scalp inflammation, I tried minoxidil several times, and each time what happened is that basically my scalp inflammation got worse, and I knew that I cannot use it, right? But when I finally was able to solve my scalp inflammation, when I understood what was happening, I started using minoxidil again, and it was a smooth process. Right? I was just applying minoxidil, and it was fine. My scalp was feeling fine. Of course, there was some flakiness from minoxidil, and there was some typical minoxidil itch, but those things went well, right, compared to when I was having inflammation, because then I applied minoxidil and my scalp just got more inflamed, right? So you need to solve inflammation first. You need to find out what is actually causing inflammation and solve it, and then you can start with minoxidil, and it should be smooth from zero. So. The question about how much ml of minoxidil do I use? Like right now, I'm using 1.5 ml once a day, right? And it is enough for me to cover all the scalp, like cover all the top part, like temples, hairline, crown, and this part, right? And that should be basically like if you are carefully applying it with dropper and don't get like a rinse down the face or mess it up in the sides or back, right? So 1.5, 1.8 ml of minoxidil is more than enough. So. Hey Alex, do you think energy drinks have negative impact on the hair loss? Yes, I think so. That's why I don't drink them. Because first of all, most of them contain a lot of sugar, and they also contain several other things that are not healthy for the system. And like if you need energy drinks, you just drink a cup of coffee. It's a much better option. So. Let's see if there is more questions about inflammation. Okay, that was basically all about the information questions. So now I will check up the chat and see what questions you have been asking there. So. All right. I will also add a few bonuses for you guys who are on the stream today. I will add 3 bonuses actually today. So this is about diet that you can check out. Here is my timeline of regrowing here is minoxidil in the pictures that I checked out basically my Google Drive and did notice pictures during the time I was trying to grow back my hair. So how long time it actually did take for me. And here is about brushing. So all right. So those are bonuses. And for you guys who actually want to know more about my program, and you can schedule a call here. All right. Okay, guys. So first question is about scalp inflammation. Has it to be visible or is it sometimes invisible? Yes, it basically depends on scalp inflammation, and it can, like, I had different stages, like I showed the pictures. I had stages that I was having visible scalp inflammation with redness, and even I felt soreness and itchiness. But I also had a visible scalp inflammation, so basically my hair just did look flat and dry and frizzy, and I was not able to manage them. So it basically depends on, it can be both of them, right? You need to look at your structure. If you don't feel any inflammation, but you kind of know that there is something wrong, you need to look at your structure of the hair, right? does they look healthy or they are not looking healthy, right? What is kind of going on? So large shampoos, like you said, allow to clean the scalp pretty good, so it can reduce inflammation, or to a certain extent, yes, it can. It can reduce inflammation, but again, it depends on like if you use them too much. If you use too much of large shampoos, then maybe they can even increase inflammation, because let's say they mess up scalp environment, unclog the pores, and possibly cause dryness, right? So they can also increase inflammation, but you need to kind of cycles them, like not use too much of them, right? For example, if I use large shampoos, I try to limit the amount of use of them to, for example, 2 to 3 times a month, right? I don't use it often. So. What was my medications for inflammation? When I was having inflammation, basically what I was applying was steroids, right? I was applying steroid creams, hydrocortisone, and stronger ones. And again, they did work, but you need to basically work on to solving underlying conditions, underlying issue, why you actually are having this inflammation problem in the first place. All right, and is inflammation can produce from cosmetic products? Yes, of course it can, like, because it basically triggers the immune system, and it causes immune system responses, and it causes again dermatitis, and it causes again inflammation. So it definitely can happen, but it doesn't happen for everyone, right? It's individual things. Like question about microneedling and applying castor oil on bald areas is a good option. No, I would be careful with applying oils, all oils basically with after microneedling. Like you need to be careful with oils because they can also cause issues, right? And especially for the guys who have a sensitive scalp or a tendency to get inflammation, oils can be problematic also. And applying them after microneedling can basically fire up the problem and cause even more issues. So. What shampoos do you use, Alex? Yes, I currently use what I use now. I use Region Power at the moment, Revita, and I use my compounded shampoos that come myself with salt nuts. So well, that's what I use now. So. And let's say next one. Hey Alex, my doctor said that I don't have any scalp inflammation, but my scalp still itch one side for a year. What do you cause it? Like it's most likely some kind of inflammation there, right? And even if like the healthy scalp don't itch, right? If the scalp is itching, that basically means that there is something wrong, right? And you need to basically find out what it is. Like what I would suggest to do is to get a USB microscope, check your scalp conditions more clearly and see what is happening there, right? Because just by like, if the doctor, like if you did went, for example, to dermatologist, it could be a better option. Just a general doctor, maybe he just looked at your scalp, he don't know what is actually going on there, right? So I would either get a USB microscope and look more closely up why you actually are itching in that area. What is the reason? Maybe there is inflammatory hair follicles just in specific area. Maybe there is something else, right? You need to find out what is going on because scalp should not be itchy. I'm getting small pimples on my scalp according to how to counter this. You have a acne-free diet. What topicals to use to along with it? Like one possibility would be like a zinc lotion or something. It can calm down the skin. So. Yeah, Alex, I applied minoxidil 5% and feel nothing. Why? Like again, you should not no irritation, no inflammation, no irritation. Yes, of course, you should not feel anything when you apply minoxidil, right? If you feel something, that's basically there can be some issues. Let's see. like I said, like a question about how do you know if you have scalp inflammation? You will either feel it, that there is something wrong in your scalp, or basically you will also kind of see that the hair are not feeling good, right? If the hair are not feeling good, then basically there is some problem, right? So you need to check a bit more closely up, like if you see that the hair are not lying the way they should, or you feel that there is something going on in the scalp, and you most likely have some problem. It doesn't have to be scalp inflammation, but it can just be dermatitis or those kind of things, right? And you need to basically find out what is happening. So. Question about can I apply minoxidil right after microneedling for best results? I have done it myself, right? And I would say yes, it's definitely much better results than just by applying minoxidil alone, so, or doing microneedling less frequent. So. Let's see, question about I've been using topical minoxidil for a year, how to switch from topical to oral minoxidil. Like again, I would oral minoxidil can have side effects, right? So you need to be careful with it. Why not just stick to topical minoxidil? I don't see a reason to switch between them. Like I have been using topical minoxidil for last 8 years, and it still works. So. And regarding question about the laziness and switching to oral minoxidil, again, oral minoxidil is much more potent, but the side effects from it, possible side effects from it, is not something you want to experience. And remember that minoxidil, for most guys, they will need to take minoxidil for a very long time, right? If they take it orally. Like I said, I better prefer to apply topically. So. Question about how deep the microneedlings do you recommend? I personally, from my experience, I've been using 1.5 on a daily basis. So this is my what I have been doing. So. Question about should I start with finasteride before minoxidil or both together? Like when I was starting first, I was having I had a good effect from finasteride alone, right? And if I didn't get a scalp inflammation back in 2011, so basically I would just continue with finasteride by itself until now, right? But because of scalp inflammation, I was not able to solve it fast enough, and it did a lot of damage. And afterwards, basically addressing it just by finasteride was not enough, and that's why I added minoxidil. And remember that, for example, if your hair loss has been going on for a short time, so just starting with finasteride or DHT blocking can be enough, and it can give you good results. Right? If your hair loss is very advanced, then of course minoxidil is something that can take your hair to the next level. Question about do you recommend using minoxidil once or twice a day? Like I can say from my personal experiences that I use it once a day and it still works. So. Should someone stay away from finasteride if they have a high estrogen? Yes, most likely it's a good idea to solve it first before one starts with finasteride. Question about I have a recession on temples, but with some thin hairs still alive there. About to start finasteride, can I recover temples just with finasteride or need minoxidil as well? Like if you set up initial conditions and everything is perfectly set up, and you have addressed all the possible angles from your hair loss, then yes, finasteride can be enough, right? Because when I started with finasteride, first time I was able to get very good results with it, right? So it is fully possible, right? All right, guys, it was the last question I will take today. And again, check out the bonuses that I added about different subjects that you have been asking about. There are 3 bonuses. I can re-add them here for you guys who are on the live stream now. So you can check them out. And those are bonus from my program, right? They're not on the YouTube. This one and this one, last one. All right, and again, for you guys who want to know more about my program and actually get awesome results like I did, you can schedule a call here. Let's talk and see how my program can help. Because if you have a plan, if you have a clear path to get results, it is much more simple. Right? You don't need to use a lot of time and energy to actually address your hair loss issue by yourself, right? By getting help from someone who have been able to recover from it and get here, basically, that I have now. So, all right, guys, thanks for attending, and speak next time. Cheers.